If you've always wanted to become a great rock singer, but you feel like there's something that you're just missing about this whole learning to sing thing, right? You've made the sounds, you've done the exercises, you bought the vocal courses, you've taken singing lessons, you've dedicated a serious amount of time to practicing your singing, but there's something that just isn't working right for you, like you're missing an extra element in your singing. If that's become your experience as a singer, this video is for you. At the end of the day, you are the instrument. This is something I've been trying to work out how to share with you in the last couple of videos I've been doing on the channel, where we've been talking about using your frustration. Instead of getting frustrated and then just deciding you can't sing anymore, really turning that frustration into vocal exercises that you can put into practice with real songs. And there's something that I work through on a personal level with every single student that comes my way that is very tricky to share in a more general YouTube video. We're all different. We're all coming at this from different perspectives. You've got a different accent to me. You feel differently about your voice. Some people feel great about their voices, and that's fantastic for them. They probably don't feel the way that you feel, and I've pretty much always felt about my voice. Like, I'm almost the underdog with the whole thing, where other people are just natural singers. They make the sounds, they become better singers. I made the sounds and I didn't become a better singer, right? There was this extra element that I had to learn. That's something I work through on a personal level with my students, but has always been really challenging to share on YouTube. Really, the voice is a tool of expression. It responds as a reflex to what you're trying to express, and even stimulus, right? Even the experience you're in, even the room you're in, even the people you're around, your voice expresses different things. And this is the missing element that you need to understand and really learn to work with and live with if you want to seriously become a better rock singer. Before I show you how to do that, hello, my name is Keegan. In over a decade of coaching singing professionally, I've helped hundreds of singers absolutely transform their voices. Singers like you who've done 5 vocal courses, have taken singing lessons for years, they've dedicated a serious amount of time to vocal training, and they're really feeling disappointed about the whole thing. They're really struggling to find a way forward. We've absolutely transformed their voice. In the past couple of videos on the channel, you can go and check them out if you like. I've been sharing the experiences of my students who are becoming vocal teachers. They're making records. They're out there touring internationally, professionally. This is not just a change in their ability to sing well, like good bedroom singers, right? Or YouTube singers. These singers that are working with me are actually going out there and making a living as singers. People that, have had songs for 30 years that they've been unable to sing. They're making records. People that were too scared to sing in front of me as a singing teacher, they're out there touring internationally. This is what the simple but practical process I'm sharing with you is going to do for you if you really apply it in your singing. So, you are the instrument. Now, my analogy for this is usually guitar, because I've been playing guitar for 35 years, something like that. I got my first guitar, I think it was Christmas 1988. Yes, I'm that old, right? And I used to have tons of guitar musical notation books and later tab books, right? The Megadeth stuff, Metallica stuff, all of that kind of stuff, right? And you could put on a Metallica record, you could look up the guitar tab, whatever it was in the books, and you could look at the note that James Hetfield was playing, and you could play that same note. You just put your finger on the fret, it says it on the page, this is fret number 5 on an A string, that kind of thing, right? And you could literally play the same note. Doesn't mean you can play the song necessarily, doesn't mean I played like James Hetfield, but at least I could play that same note, right? Singing is obviously not the same thing, right? You can understand the note that Freddie Mercury is singing or Chris Cornell's singing. You can't necessarily even sing that note. So where do you go from here, right? Now, singing is obviously not like a guitar in this sense. First, you need to understand every single element of the voice. It's almost like you've got this deconstructed guitar, right? You get this guitar in a box that's in pieces. You've got your strings over here, you've got your neck over here, you've got your body, knobs, whatever, and you have to almost piece it together as a guitar, so to speak, before you learn how to sing, right? And even when you do so, your voice doesn't necessarily work in the same way as other guitars that have been put together by other people, right? Now, you can practice scales, you can, look up the notes and guitar tabs, all that kind of stuff, and hit those notes. But singing is simply not the same thing, right? Now, this is an experience I had fairly recently, shockingly, right? This is my favorite heavy metal record ever. If you can see, that's actually a shiny silver cover. Yes, I've had this since it came out. Blessing in Disguise by Metal Church. Yes, the songs are fantastic. Yes, as a guitarist, I was really, really blown away by the guitar playing and the songs and the structure of that kind of thing. But what blew me away about this was Mike Howe's singing. And Mike Howe has basically been my favorite heavy metal singer since 1990 or 1989 or whenever I got that cassette. I've also got it on record. I've also had many, many copies of it over CD over the years. And funnily enough, my cassette and my records have lasted longer than the CDs. How about them apples, huh? Now, there's something that I heard in Mike Howe's voice that I really gelled with on a personal level, and I never really understood it. Like the lyrics, the lyrics in the album, they're really fantastic. I really, really love them. As a 10-year-old kid or something at the time when I got the record, they weren't something I could have related to, but I really related to something within his voice. I still do. I hear that voice and I feel empowered and I feel sad and I want to break shit and I want to build shit. It's really strange. Very, very different to hearing, Bad Motorfinger, Chris Cornell, where I feel sad and I want to break shit and I feel angry and I want to drive a car real fast, that kind of thing, right? There's just something special in Mike Howe's voice to the point where I've always wanted to cover basically every Metal Church song, but all the Mike Howe era Metal Church songs in particular, everything from this record, I've always wanted to do, right? I got to the point where I actually reached out to Mike Howe and I asked him about it. I was just like, how the fuck do you sing this song? Like, what is it? How do you approach this? Why do you sound like this? It was something I was so invested in. I thought I could learn so much from him about this. And he basically had nothing to say about vocal technique at all. I was trying to ask him, I was coaching at the time. And, I was asking about this technique and that technique and the other stuff. And he was like, I don't know any of that stuff. The mind was absolutely blown that this incredible singer with such a ridiculous range that has basically spoken to me my whole life as a singer and as a musician, right? It really inspired me to become a singer. He basically knew not much about vocal technique. Now, the voice is a tool of expression, and this is what I've always struggled to share with you guys on YouTube in particular. It's one thing for me to share exercises and help you hit higher notes and do all this kind of stuff, right? But again, we're all different people. We feel something different, and this is actually what your voice is expressing. Your brain is attuned to hearing certain frequencies as emotions, as expressions. Even animals do exactly the same thing. Without, seeing or looking at a dog, you could tell a friendly bark from an aggressive bark, right? It's just within the frequencies and the delivery. The voice is the same, even if we're not looking at singing. If you're overseas or something and asking for directions, you don't need to be holding a big map and looking all confused and that kind of thing, or standing on a map on the ground for someone to understand that you need help. If you ask someone a question and they don't necessarily speak English, they're going to understand from the frequencies of your voice and absolutely everything about what you're expressing that you need help finding something, and they're going to try and help you most likely. Same thing is someone, your best mate is really upset about something, right? Their girlfriend just broke up with them or something like that, right? And you're hanging out for pizza and beer and football on a Friday or something like that, and they don't really want to talk about it. They don't want to tell you about it. They're just trying to have a nice night and not ruin everyone else's night. You are going to know. You are going to know that something's up because it's going to be in the tone of their voice, even when they're joking, laughing, all this kind of stuff, because our brains are attuned to frequencies, and that's what the voice is for. Now, this is really a two-pronged thing when it comes to singing. The way you feel and the things you think and your understanding of things affects the way your voice functions on a muscular level. If you feel like you're not going to hit a high note, you're not going to hit a high note because the voice is going to brace. The voice is going to express that, right? This is why you love your favorite singers, right? They made, there's tons of singers that I love that aren't necessarily spectacular singers like Mike Howe from Metal Church. We're going to get back to that in a second. I love Iggy Pop and the Stooges. I love all these really, really weird shit. Obviously, like more extreme stuff as well, and death metal, and I love singers like Mark Lanigan and Peter Murphy and all these great singers that don't necessarily have a lot of range, right? There's something in their voice that speaks to me, just like this Metal Church record. There's something in the frequencies there of what they're doing that speaks to me on some personal level. This is also why you dislike certain singers who might be really fantastic, right? There's people that, go on a Queen video, there's going to be thumbs down. There's going to be negative comments about Freddie Mercury's voice somewhere along the line. There's tons of people that don't like Chris Cornell. That was kind of a thing. He's become this larger than life kind of thing, right? But there was kind of a period through the 2000s or whatever, where if you were a fan of Soundgarden, people were like, as singing like a dying cat strapped to a megaphone, that kind of thing, right? There's certain things in certain people's voices that you don't even realize you're receiving, whether that's positive, whether that's not, right? Something about your favorite singer is beyond just the sounds they're making and how well they sing. It's about what you relate to, right? So the first prong is that the way you feel and what you express affects physically how the voice functions. That's why you have things like cry and even witch cackle and funny sounds and monkey sounds and whatever that people share right there, because they're trying to force you to use the voice in a specific way as a tool of expression, right? So on that muscular level, you have to almost play with the way you feel or have this intention in the way you feel to get the voice to function correctly, right? This can work against you. If you don't feel the right way, the voice is not going to function correctly, right? So this happened to me with this Metal Church record. I got to the point where I even went in and recorded drums for the song. It was Fake Healer. That was a big single at the time from the record. Bass, guitars, all of this stuff. Did the guitar solos, invested all this time. Went to sing this song. You guys know me. You guys know how I sing in these tutorials. You guys know how I sing in the covers, all that kind of stuff. Just doing stuff on the spot and really do my best to kind of nail stuff, right? I could not sing this fucking song. So embarrassing, right? So incredibly embarrassing. My favorite heavy metal record. I put in all this time. I'm telling people I'm going to do it, whatever. And I couldn't sing the song, basically. I got to the... whatever it is, right? And I'd be like, okay, super heavy metal. I pray upon her. What the fuck is that? My voice has not done that in 15 years or 10 or 15 years, right? So strange, right? This song was built up in my mind so much, and having spoken to Mike Howe personally about this and kind of getting nothing from him about it, when I went to do these vocals around about that time, Mike Howe actually passed away, right? And this just started like as lasagna, right? Started stacking these levels of legend to this song, right? And I'm trying to sing this song by my favorite heavy metal band, my favorite heavy metal record, my favorite song on the record, my favorite singer. The guy had passed away recently. And here I am trying to sing the song. And I was emotional about it. And the wrong thing kind of came out, and I was trying to fight that, and I was just like, man, this is a heavy metal song. I've got to be like this strong. I've got to be strong in the face of all this kind of opposition I'm having to sing in this song, right? Until I took a step back and I realized, hang on. What's going on here with my voice? I'm expressing the wrong thing, and my voice is not working the way that I'm usually pretty neutral with things, right? Like I sing a Chris Cornell song or a Temple of the Dog song, that kind of thing. I'm not necessarily emotionally involved in it. It's something that I've worked really hard towards. It's something I love the song. I'm really, really into it. I like to make the choices, and I like to do a good job of things. This was something else because it was such an emotional thing that I wasn't used to kind of singing, right? And once I actually went with that, the desperation of it, and that kind of, like I said, there was this, I never used to understand, there's this sadness in it, this kind of kick-ass heavy metal thing with this kind of underlying sadness to it, right? It eventually has come to make sense to me, right? The second you go with that in your singing, right? I pray upon your morbid fear of terminal disease. You won't know the difference, now it's time for surgery. I was really getting that voice, right? Another shot, another pill, 2 weeks therapy. I take your major credit cards, your money's what I need. I'm a healer, I will keep you all alive. I'm a healer. Right? I started to get that sound the second I started to go with what my voice was trying to express. It just so happened that's what I heard in the original record. That's what I heard in Mike Howe's voice. That actually gave me the right setup physically, so that desperation, that stretches your vocal folds and you have that secondary pitching mechanism we've been talking about in the last couple of videos, right? It even helped me narrow my vowels as well, hearing his voice and thinking of the kind of narrow way that he sings as well. Once I actually went with this, and I almost went with that desperation and went with that frustration and kind of went with the sadness of the whole thing, because, you know, the guy passed away and he was my favorite singer. It was sad circumstances, all that kind of stuff, right? Once I actually went with that, I sang the song in one go. It was freaky, really freaky, like being basically unable to sing it, doing it in falsetto, which was really scary at the time, and getting this out in one go. And I've actually done a cover of it on the channel, and it wasn't going to be my intended. It wasn't really intended to be my final take. It was kind of a scratch take, and that was the one I was like, right, this is done. We're out here. Let's upload this sucker, right? And it happened really, really quickly for that reason, right? Your voice is a tool of expression. You need to understand this and you need to work with this. We all feel differently about things, and this affects our voices. It's something that definitely affects my voice. If I'm having a bad day, my voice works in a different way than if I'm having a good day. If I'm frustrated about something, learning how your voice reacts when you feel in different ways and when you think different things, even the things you think about your favorite singer, right? You think Chris Cornell's doing one thing, a certain thing. Your voice is going to do some bizarre thing. You think Axl Rose is doing some specific thing. Your voice is going to act in some bizarre way. You almost have to find a voice and a tone, or even an exercise, whatever it is, a song, and treat that as the benchmark and treat that as the foundation of what you build on, right? I often think of all this heavy metal, hard rock stuff, all the crazy stuff you see me singing on the channel. I often think of Paul Rodgers singing that stuff, which is really comical because I can't really imagine 1968, 16-year-old Paul Rodgers in Free, singing a metal church song. And this adds an element of comicalness to it and freedom in my expression, because it doesn't actually line up with my personal experience or line up with what I've heard him singing, right? So it becomes this expression, which is why you'll find that people that make funny sounds generally sing pretty well, right? Jim Carrey sings pretty well. Jack Black sings incredibly well, right? You can basically sing like Dio. Yes, it's a slightly comical version of it, but that's why. It's freedom outside that serious expression and that anxiety that things aren't going to fucking work for you, right? You have this freedom and this comicalness to it. Your voice is a tool of expression, and this is the missing element that hasn't been working for you while you've been making sounds, while you've been doing exercises, while you bought vocal courses, while you're taking singing lessons. Your brain is basically messing with how your voice functions and what you're expressing and how you feel, and what's actually coming out is, again, it's having that flow-on effect in how you support, the setup, the muscles you're using, all of this kind of things. You need to identify in a physical sense how your voice is working based on the things that you're expressing, even on a fundamental level, right? You also need to understand the variance of this. The variance of this every day. I don't feel the same every single day, right? Sometimes I'm really anxious about stuff. Sometimes I have a bad day. Sometimes I'm in a really good mood, right? The voice acts differently in these ways. And if you have some sort of warm-up process and you have a way of dealing with that and really managing that natural day-to-day variance in your voice, you're going to become the most consistent, fantastic, powerful rock singer ever. Whereas if you think you're just going to make the sounds and be a good singer without realizing that the way you feel and what you think and your opinions of things, without realizing that they affect how your voice is working on a physical and a fundamental level, you're going to continue struggling to learn how to sing. Most importantly, you need to hit that subscribe button so we can keep talking about this, because this is really, really, really important stuff.